With an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, this weekend proved that the world continues to be more and more chaotic. And in the midst of chaos, Bitcoin continues to be a beacon of hope, absorbing financial chaos and producing life-changing returns. Which is probably why just this morning, Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, admitted on CNBC that he was wrong about Bitcoin and that it is a legitimate financial instrument. Is the market turning bullish on Bitcoin? Welcome to Bitcoin Daily. I'm Dante Cook, head of Swan Business. If I'm being honest, I'm still a bit shaken up from this past weekend. I'm processing a lot of doubts, a lot of questions, a lot of concerns that I have, because one thing that I think we all need to recognize in light of these moments in this social media area that we live in is that we need to not become numb to these types of events and to recognize that we still have feelings and emotions and we are human. Living in constant chaos is definitely having an impact on us. It's forming and reforming the mindset, patterns, behaviors, and character of an entire generation. And that's what we've been trying to communicate about the fiat system and how it's fundamentally changed how we think about money, how we think about investing, and the patterns of behavior of millions of people across the world in how they think about their money. And many boomers don't understand why millennials or the younger generations are thinking about Bitcoin. Well, it's because we believe Bitcoin is a bridge from chaos to hope. Natalie puts this well in an interview that she had recently with Charles Payne on Fox.
Another area where people are making a lot of money, you might have heard of it. Crypto? Bitcoin? Anyone? Why do people love Bitcoin? Why do they love crypto? Well, I got to tell you something. 28% of young folks say they want it, and I'll tell you why. Going back to 2013, the number one asset, the number one performing asset, Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. How much? How about 315,000%? 315,000%. There's one drawback. The years it wasn't number one, it was last. Still, though, 315,000%. I'll ride that wave anytime. Let's bring in now one of my favorite experts on the topic, Coin Stories podcast host, Natalie Burnell.
You know, really the opportunity of our lifetime, especially for young people. We millennials have lived through multiple financial crises. My family lost everything in 08, 09. And we've seen the complete destruction of the value of these slips of paper that the government just prints out of thin air that we sacrifice our time and energy for. And our leaders are in their 70s and 80s, and we've watched them get mega rich while our generation is posting social media videos about how they can't afford rent and groceries. So just to catch up economically has been chaotic for millennials and Gen Z. And Bitcoin is really the bridge from chaos to hope, because young people are thinking about where they can put their money for the next 100 years and how they're going to save for their children and the next generation. So what are they going to buy, Charles? Bonds? No. Gentlemen and ladies of my era don't prefer bonds. A stock index, well, that's basically tracking the inflation of the money supply, and you have a handful of companies making all the gains, so you're buying a few winners that offset hundreds of duds. And when you're picking stocks, how do you know that that company is going to be around for 100 years? What about real estate? Well, I can't buy a fraction of a house and take it with me around the globe. I can't buy a fraction of your watch, Charles. So for millennials and young people, Bitcoin is really the solution. It's the tool for economic empowerment, and it will eat into all the other asset classes that have made older generations so wealthy.
You see, when we buy things and sell things normally throughout a day, we're creating equilibrium. We're creating a solid foundation of values that we all believe something is worth. So when you print money or when you create money, you are sowing chaos or disrupting that equilibrium. Bitcoin absorbs the chaos, the economic and financial chaos that comes from money printing, and it produces life-changing returns. The chart that Charles Payne and Natalie were walking through on that show is actually a chart from BlackRock, showing that Bitcoin has been the top performing asset in the world 10 out of the last 13 years. And if this year continues to go how it's going so far, 11 out of the last 14 years. The research from BlackRock came for their IBIT Bitcoin ETF product and showing why Bitcoin should be a part of everyone's portfolio. And BlackRock's perspective on Bitcoin has fundamentally changed because of the success of this Bitcoin ETF, IBIT, but it's also changed because the perspective of its CEO has changed as he's gone from a skeptic to full-on Bitcoin bull as he's gone down the rabbit hole. Listen to this interview just this morning on CNBC, where Larry Fink admits he was wrong about Bitcoin and how he's moved from the pet rock camp to the Bitcoin is a legitimate asset that should be in everyone's portfolio camp. It's a hope, and it's a hedge against fear and uncertainty in the world.
Now, I know you have been a leader in willing to embrace crypto. You have made it so that people can be in Bitcoin. We hear that you are thinking about Ethereum. These are incredible things. Now, BlackRock is not known as a gunslinger by any means. So you obviously must believe that this maybe is an alternative. Is this an alternative in order to be able, because of a deficit, maybe something long-term people should have?
Absolutely. As you know, I was a skeptic.
Yes.
I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. Right. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative to, I would say, the optimism that I have in the world. If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
Rate cuts, liquidity injections, and more chaos seems inevitable as the base case moving forward in 2024. And we'll continue to monitor this as we believe that Bitcoin is the great absorber of financial chaos, or M2 liquidity, in the world. And it looks like M2 liquidity is beginning to break out. And with Bitcoin breaking out, the value of people's long-term savings and holdings inevitably goes up. But one of the things that keeps people from investing into Bitcoin is the fear and the chaos around losing their Bitcoin or their life savings. So, one of the things that we love to do at Swan is educate people on tried and true and proven ways of how you can protect your long-term wealth and savings in Bitcoin. There are proven ways and experts and knowledge that you can pull from on this show or others to help you to mitigate that fear. So, this Wednesday, we're teaching a webinar about how you can secure your Bitcoin with two folks from our engineering team, Christian Amundsen and Brandon Black, who will teach you specifically different techniques for how you can secure your Bitcoin from single sig to multi-sig in something like Swan Vault. They'll be joined by Terrence Yang, one of the members from our Swan private team, who's a lawyer and has a background from Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs in traditional Wall Street, to help you think through these particularly tricky issues. It's completely free. Sign up with the link in the description below. Even if you can't make the webinar live, we'll send you the recording afterwards. Bitcoin represents hope, and it finds its strength in the midst of chaos. And despite all the chaos that went on this weekend, Bitcoin seems to be responding well. With Bitcoin's price ripping above 63K today, it's only a matter of time before we reach all-time highs yet again. I hope you're finding more hope in the midst of chaos. And with that, we're We're signing off for today. This is Dante Cook with Swan.com. Happy stacking.